I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. People are critical of Arsenal's performance at the Etihad, saying it was anti-football, we didn't have a go, City were the only ones who came to play. Arsenal have done their job, people. Arsenal have won their home games against their title rivals, beating Liverpool, beating City, and at Anfield and the Etihad came away with draws and made sure that those teams couldn't get one up on Arsenal and leapfrog them in any way. And that's really important for me. I think Arsenal could be really proud of their efforts in these big games, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video today. Not just how we managed to do something special at the maybe not special at the Etihad, winning would have been special, but I think putting a performance we could be really, really proud of. I want to talk about that here, and I think there were 5 ingredients that were crucial to Arsenal putting in performances we can be proud of in these big games and coming out as the better of the 3 in the head-to-heads in this mini title race, battle between the 3. And look, you don't get a medal or a trophy for it. It's about what you do for the rest of the season, of course. But I think it could really fuel belief for Arsenal, and I think it is an important fact, going into the run-in. Now, the 5 ingredients for me are the system, the individuals, the application of the players, clarity, which was something Arteta mentioned. We'll go into that. And the final one I put to be revealed, because I think if I mention it now, it might do a little bit of a disservice to everything else. So, but the last thing I mentioned, stay tuned at the end of the video to find out what I think the 5th ingredient was in the performances and the results we picked up against City and Liverpool. And the first thing I want to talk about, and I take it to the tactical pad, is the system. You all know I love this stuff. And what I want to really talk about here is Arsenal in build-up, is Arsenal's press, is Arsenal's defensive shape. They've had to deploy a lot of different systems and way of playing in one game to try and stifle Liverpool and City in slightly different ways too. We're going to start with the 4-4-2 build-up, and very simply, you all know that essentially, Arsenal, for a long time, have played with that inverted fullback. I've got Kivior there, the number 15, who you can track. Sometimes it'd be Zinchenko if he's playing. Sometimes it's White who inverts. But we know Arsenal like to build up with this 3-2-4-1, and that is their go-to system normally. In big games, we even saw it against Newcastle, Arsenal built more in a 4-4-2, and they've lost that box of Kivior, Rice, Ødegaard, Jorginho, or whoever it might be, to actually form this kind of build-up with a box of Havertz, Ødegaard, Rice and Jorginho instead. So they've got their fullback, should I say, quite high up the pitch and build-up, nearer to Trossard and Saka or whoever is starting out on the left, and they've had that box made by the striker dropping in instead. Now that's been Arsenal from a simple building out from the back. I'm going to talk about some other things they've done in possession in a little bit, but first let's talk about what Arsenal have done without the ball, because if we just give this neutral team in white the ball, Arsenal have made sure to be really compact with Saka and Trossard, like I said, Jesus, whoever it is, the wingers, really close, making it a 4-4-2, but at the same time tracking the wing backs as they get up the pitch and making sure that they form a 6-2-2, something Emery's played before, and it looks really defensive, but it's not something to knock, because this isn't something that's a case of have your back four, wingers get back and be super defensive, we'll work on that for 5 minutes in training. That's an impressive tactical setup. Why? Because it involves constantly following the man and constantly knowing what every other player on the opposition is doing. Because if I move Saka back up the pitch with the fullback, and let's say this ball is about to go out to the winger that White's marking, when the ball comes out, Saka is so often tracking the inside and the underlap. Let's move along slightly, there we go. It's tracking the underlap where a central midfielder or a fullback might have attacked that space that the winger hugging the touchline has created. White's followed them out rather than just letting him have the ball for free and running at the fullback. And what you've had there is that 6 reformed by Saka playing a little bit more central. If you go watch that City game, especially in the second half, so often Saka is in that space between Saliba and White to try and cover the runs that are coming beyond, or if the ball's coming to the box, he's there to help as well. The work ethic is absolutely tremendous. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And then we go through, that's our defensive shape off the ball. Let's move everyone back up the pitch. Sorry, that's our defensive shape in the final third, should I mention, more low block. When we're pressing as well, because Arsenal have actually tried to win the ball high up the pitch, create transitions. We've seen that really against Liverpool. We see it here where the ball is there with the centre back, and Martin Ødegaard can go to press, and here it's a little bit more man for man. No one has spoken about this better than Jamie Carragher from what I've seen on Monday Night Football. What you've got here is Ødegaard pressing the centre back on the ball, and Kivior, or whether it be Zinchenko, actually moving inside because they've got an overload there. So rather than having a back four against their 3 and only having Rice and Jorginho to deal with a midfield 3 when we press, the fullback might move inside and follow a central midfielder so we can go man for man across the back 3 as well. But that's not always how we've done it. Sometimes Ødegaard's been happy to let them have the ball, drop in to just make sure that ball is in there for the 6. And then we have an overload across their back 3 as well. So Arsenal have played in quite a few different ways in terms of pressing as well. So it's not just been about low block, it's also been about pressing, creating transitions and pressing in different ways. Jamie Carragher talked about this brilliantly on Monday Night Football. Go check out his analysis, that's out on Sky Sports. I just thought the way he covered it was really, really good. Now that's all Arsenal and the defensive work that we've got to give credit for, and there's probably more. Let me know in the comment section below if I missed anything out. That was a very kind of summed up version because we have a lot to cover in this video. But what I also want to talk about is these two here, Rice and Jorginho, and the use of these two by Mikel Arteta, because I think the use of double 6 in this game has been fascinating. Firstly, in the 2 City games, and we saw it in the Community Shield, and we saw it in the Liverpool game at the Emirates, he went for Jorginho or Partey in the Community Shield, but basically 2 6s to free up Declan Rice a little bit, but also do something a little bit different between the 2 games. Now against Man City, the task was, as you'd expect, Jorginho's the 6, because that's typically where he plays to get the ball, and Rice's job was twofold essentially, or maybe 20-fold. It was be everywhere. Do everything on the pitch, Declan Rice, please. He's unbelievable. We're going to give him more credit in a second. Because Declan Rice, at times, if the ball was going into Rodri, he would be the one there. Let's say, Odegaard is pressing the centre. He'd be the one there to try and suffocate Rodri and make sure he couldn't get on the ball and he couldn't play his football. At the same time, though, sometimes Odegaard would follow Rodri, and then De Bruyne, who's a right-sided biased player, prefers to, hug these kind of areas and get into these pockets. Rice was there if the ball got to De Bruyne to come across and sweep up and come away with the ball, allowing, stopping De Bruyne from getting into his flow and being dangerous from those right half spaces that he can be really, really good in. And Declan Rice, I felt, was crucial to this, but it's different to how he was used against, let's move the ball back there, it's different to how he was used against Liverpool, because against Liverpool he was sitting deeper to be closer to Gabriel and Saliba, and Jorginho was getting higher up the pitch. Why was that? I think it's because Liverpool had more transitional threat, so he wanted to have that dynamism, Arteta, of Rice, Saliba and Gabriel, all brilliant. And I think he wanted Jorginho on the ball, because Arsenal have more possession against Liverpool, to have that passing range to get into the game and be dictating as well from the middle and final third for Arsenal. So how he's rotated the use of the 6s has been really, really fascinating. Now, I've just gone on for ages there about the system, even though there are 5 things to talk about. That's the main thing for me. Ultimately, Arteta's system and the way he's coached his team is crucial to how Arsenal have been able to go unbeaten against Liverpool and City in these games. Now, let's talk about the individuals, because 3 I really want to talk about are Saliba, Gabriel and Rice. I think they deserve their own video. Let me know in the comment section below if you want me to do a video on Saliba, Gabriel and Rice in more detail. But in short, if I'm just to give something on each player, William Saliba, look at his stats in the City game, ranking first for duels won, possession wins, successful passes, tackles and touches. But crucially, he's ranking first for things like touches and successful passes, because he is a calming influence. The ball is often with him in these games, and he is calm, he is composed. He'll dribble out the back if he can, if he has to. He'll try and look for a pass and go around the player if he can. If not, he'll go back to Raya, and he just oozes composure and never looks overawed by the occasion. Gabriel's up for a fight with absolutely anyone. He is just such a brute. You feel like you can't get past him, and it's brilliant how he just stands up to the fight against anyone. And then Declan Rice, a brute himself, but someone who covers ground and does everything like I mentioned, and I think they deserve massive credit. In fact, if going into 2024, you'll see this from an article in the Premier League, only Kulusevski and Ward-Prowse had covered more ground than Declan Rice going into 2024, which just tells you how brilliant he is when it comes to dominating midfield and using his dynamism and stamina to take control for Arsenal. Now, a couple more things to mention, like I said in the 5 that I talked about. Firstly, application. Does any team in the league work harder than Arsenal? I'm not sure. And application isn't just running a lot, it's tracking runners, like I mentioned with Bukayo Saka. He came in for some criticism against City. I thought that was really unfair because the work rate was utterly phenomenal. Odegaard too, Havertz, Jesus. They all worked so unbelievably hard when they came on. And I don't know if an Arsenal team does work harder in terms of taking on tactical instruction, in terms of deploying different formations and plans within games, keeping focus throughout the 90, and of course doing the hard running, the tackling. I mean, I think I saw a stat that, Arsenal have the highest dribblers tackled success rate in the league this season, showing that they engage with people in the battle so often. I then mentioned clarity, and the reason I mentioned clarity is because, I mean, this is a quote from Mikel Arteta after the City game. He said, when asked on how we had to adapt to, having inferior possession in the game, he talked about clarity. He says, clarity, before the game, are you ready to follow 30 passes? And after, follow the ball 30... Let me read that again. And after following the ball 30 passes, lose the ball and follow another 30 passes. Yes, then you can play Man City. It's very important. If you're not ready to do that, you cannot play against them. And he's right. Clarity is understanding what you've got to do tactically. It's understanding what the opposition are going to demand of you and being ready for that. And Arsenal have had that clarity and that almost like, this is how we're going to do it. Like, this is what we need to do. This is what's awaiting us. And I think that comes from good preparation as well. And again, like I said, having individuals are brilliant, having a system that can get you through it as well. But Arteta used that word clarity, and I wanted to use that here. Now, I said to round off the video that there'd be a final 5th point that was worth mentioning. And that is a bit of luck. A bit of luck. And I didn't reveal that at first because I felt that if I mentioned that, it would do injustice and a disservice to all the great things that Arsenal have done in these big games. But the reason I think a bit of luck's important is because Ake should score when the ball comes into the box. Haaland should score or square it and Diaz score in that game against City. Now, granted, those are the only 2 chances they had. And to be fair, if you're limiting to City to only 2 chances or 1 shot on target in a 90, you're probably deserving of a draw. But sometimes you need that little bit of luck. Trent hitting the crossbar. And we've had some bad luck. We've had moments where you feel the ball could have trickled into the back of the net and actually, for the attacking play we've had, we could have scored more goals. Maybe not in the Etihad game, but others. So luck goes both ways. But I think that's an element of it. But you earn it. And you minimise the chance of that luck going against you by ensuring that you're stifling the team and giving them very little in games. And Arsenal are doing that brilliantly. I think Arsenal should be extremely proud of what they've done in these games against City and Liverpool. I think it's a brilliant platform to go on for the rest of this title race. It means nothing if you then go and, don't build on it against Luton and Brighton and all that. There will be a preview for the Luton game on Wednesday. But I do think Arsenal will take immense belief from these performances, not just for the title running, but for the Champions League games against Bayern Munich as well. And I just want to say a really big thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, actually hit the links right here to watch more content like this, including my Football First podcast, which drops every Monday to Friday at 6 AM. And I know it's annoying, I am really sorry to have to ask, but if you want to show support to the channel, hitting the like and subscribe buttons help promote the content much more than you could possibly know. Thanks again.